safety report. This is on page 99 of, kia ora. We do have the motion being reported back into open, so I'll have you check with Wendy just to get the wording on that. All right, so again, we're on item 9.1, the Health, Safety, and Wellbeing Report for September 2023. This is page 99 of your agenda, and we have Marie Fullerton
Thank you.
to present this report. Welcome.
Thank you very much. There are a couple of points that Stuart wanted to have mentioned, and one is around the health and safety representatives. Chris McClay has just recently signed an employee participation agreement, which sets out the next 3 years around the structure of health and safety committees, how many health and safety reps we have, and training and function. So we're putting a little bit of effort into this. It did require a new vote and nomination election process. That's why we've added this, just to show that our first years, we're about 45% through their first year training. And by the end of November, that should be up to 85%. So we're be happy with them functioning. And I just to ensure you know that our health and safety reps under the legislation can issue us with a PIN. It's an initial improvement notice, which is as good as what you would get from WorkSafe. So, you know, we really want to make sure we develop the reps and ensure we have good participation with them. So that was that one. The other one was around well-being. This is not, I'm not specifically talking about physical and psychological well-being in terms of our mandatory legislative responsibilities. This is our voluntary options that we provide to staff. So we have a staff-led wellbeing team, and they've developed, you'll see on an appendix 2, a model that they deliver their initiatives, and it's was based on Mason Jury's Te Whare Tapawha model, and they deliver these initiatives to staff using one of those domains during the year. So every month, that committee will, or that team will deliver health initiatives, and every week they also get an email through the Wellbeing, My Everyday Wellbeing. It's a partnership with an external agent that we have partnered with. There's about 8 or 9 other councils that participate in this program as well. So unless there's any other questions.
Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Hodge.
So in your wellbeing, and I'm not sure how far we are allowed to do this or not, wellbeing will be around sick leave from my perspective. And so if we're getting sick leaves, Chris, around the same things continuously day after day, how does that fit into the wellbeing, and how are we reporting it, and what is WRC doing to help that?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, people got all sorts of reasons for being away, but if there's a continuous look at how people, why they are staying away, that would be good to understand, and what we are doing in that perspective.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because if you look at our ergonomic statistics, quite often what you'll find when someone's having a problem at work, it may manifest in some discomfort or pain, and sometimes that is an opportunity as well before they go off work to address that. So we do have our practitioners, the health and safety team, like to meet individually with each of those staff. So
Mhm.
that's why we encourage them to put that into Dampstra. Secondly, we do look at the length of time that people are off. So if they have extended leave, then generally we've got a meeting or a plan around bringing those people back to work and staying at work and staying well. We can't get a lot of information from our EAP stats because it's non-identifiable, but we do use indicators like that and sick leave to look at.
Thank you, because I read in the news about sick leave and how it's being used through the Crown thing. And the other thing is, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, it's only my thoughts, that as long as our staff should be looked after, I guess, from WRC, from all day, unfortunately, because that's what compassion is about. Humanization and all that is that if we have someone sick all the time, do we go and see what's wrong with them? Is there anything we can do for you? Blah, blah, blah. So that's where I'm kind of going, as well as looking at the sick leave that is happening. So I'm just looking at the
Thank you.
humanization of
Yes.
sick leave for WRC.
Yes, and just to comment on external support through our EAP services, they're looking to broaden their offerings in terms of other health providers, alternate health providers as well.
Councillor Mahuta?
Kia ora, thank you for the report. My question is with regards to our governance responsibilities as the PCBU, and could we, a year in, but could we have a schedule of planned or otherwise site visits? Because I'm worried that we wouldn't meet that bar of having seen the work and observed any of the risks while people perform their tasks for the council. It's in our previous training we did it somewhat accidentally. I'm wondering if we could organise that space a bit better with you.
Yes. Are you talking about site visits by our leaders or health and safety?
By governors, we
sorry.
have to show that more than an active interest, as
Yes.
our responsibilities to the PCBU. So reading your reports isn't quite that. Given that we cover everything from harbour masters through to drainage, through to etc. I just want to know that in not every councillor, but that in this term, governance has given all the different jobs of council that once over, look through, see what the hazards are that you're speaking to. And I'd rather see it on a schedule to know that we did it. Sorry.
No, thanks, Tipper. It's a good suggestion. I think it's still open, but we previously had invitations to councillors to do exactly that. Some took that up in the last triennium, others didn't, but it was an opportunity for, if councillors had interest in any particular risks, that they could see how we are doing them in place. So Marie, I don't know if we could maybe just reinvigorate that program.
Yes, we do have a process for that, so I'll be sure that's known.
Great. All right. Do I have a mover to receive the health and safety report? Councillor Hodge, seconded by Councillor Mahuta. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. We now move on to item 9.2. The next two reports are around terms of reference. So the first one is terms of reference for the scheme subcommittees. This is on page 107 of your reports. We'll get Molly up to the microphone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kia ora, councillors. This item is really straightforward, and so in the interest of time, I'm happy to take the item as read. The recommendations are on the screen, and we'll take any questions. Kia ora.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attending the joint management meeting with Tainui. Tainui raised the issue of they would like to have wider choice in who they nominated to the positions, and that's now come back through, and happy to move this, Madam Chair.
Great.
Thank you.
And a second? Seconding Councillor Cookson. Any further discussion on this item? Not all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, we now move on to 9.3. This is page 121. Our next review of terms of reference. Over to you again, Molly.
Kia ora, Madam Chair. Again, I think this item is really straightforward as well. And so, in the interest of making up time, because I know we are behind today, I'm happy to go into some detail, but also equally happy to take it as read and take questions.
Councillor Smith?
Thank you. Having raised this in a discussion, and I'd just like to say thank you to all the councillors, having now had 12 months of working together, and the benefits that I foresee in this. I'm happy to move, Madam Chair.
And we've got a mover and Councillor Smith, a second and Councillor Hughes. We've got Councillor Nichols and Councillor, sorry. Oh, right. Yes. So you're moving to appoint Councillor Strange to the additional position on the Risk and Assurance Committee, and that's been seconded by Councillor Hughes. Yes? All right. I've got Councillor Nichols and Councillor Marr, then Councillor. Okay.
Yeah, I was
Councillor
just gonna
Nichols,
second when I was speaking, so yep, happy with that.
happy with that. Councillor Marr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, no, as Chair of Strategy and Policy, more than happy to have everybody on board and in the room. And I'm sure it'll make our processes a lot smoother with everyone having their head around the subjects that coming in waves. And just a heads up to Council, next Wednesday is going to be massive. Thank you.
All right. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Stuff. All right. Now on to 9.4. This is on page 128. Have I got that right? Did I get that right? 28. Right. Okay. Sorry. 128. So this is recommended decisions for the proposed Waikato Regional Policy Statement Change 1, National Policy Statement on Urban Development 2020 and Future Proof Strategy Update. Mephi.
Kia ora tātou. So this is the plan change that we have been doing to the regional policy statement to update it for the national policy statement on urban development and to update the components of the future proof strategy. The plan change was notified in October last year. We had held hearings in May, and we now have the recommendations of the hearing panel. So this council delegated authority to the panel to hear and make recommendations on the submissions that were made. So we are now asking you to adopt those recommendations and those reasonings. Should you do so, we will then publicly notify those decisions. There will be a period in which people can appeal to the Environment Court should they wish to. If they do not, then the plan becomes operative. If they do, we will come back to you and take it from there, but fingers crossed, it's a smooth process.
Right. Just a question in terms of if councillors sit as commissioners on a plan change, is that considered a conflict at all when voting? Just checking. Oh, good. Any questions from councillors on this item? Oh, all right. Yes, she was a long haul, Councillor Strange. But very interesting. Very, very interesting. All right. So we've got the motion as detailed on the screen.
Happy to move.
Got a mover and
Happy to
Councillor
second.
Nickel and a second and Councillor Mahuta. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. So now we go to 9.5. This is on page 132 of your agenda. This is the clarification of rules with immediate legal effect in the proposed Waikato Regional Coastal Plan. Director May.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just looking for the staff member who was going to assist, but I shall present until they arrive. So, Madam Chair, we notified our regional coastal plan in August. There has been some query and question in regard to the decision of council at the June meeting. That has been laid out for you there in paragraph 6 and 7, what that was, the issue identified there. What the team has decided is that it's probably best to provide the clarification now. We sought legal comment, not strict legal advice, to be fair, Madam Chair. We didn't want to go into that detail, but legal comment in terms of the issues that were raised by more than one party. Should we address those? The legal comment was it's probably timely to do that. My main concern was, do we need to re-notify the plan? No, we don't. The rules that will be included are identified there on page 135. We have my support crew walking in the door as I speak. So in working with our resource use directorate, we have clarification in regard to what the potential implications may be of including these rules, if any. I think that's well stated in the report in regard to just what the impact will be on any consents coming through the process or that are presently in the process at the moment, given that this is just the proposed plan and the waiting on a proposed plan. Whilst cognizance must be given to it, ultimately any decision will be on the plan that's operative at the moment. Any curly questions? My support crew has arrived.
Nice. All right, Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, this is one of the query questions. So item 7 here says, most of the proposed rules in the proposed plan have immediate legal effect. But when you come to item 12, it's saying operative rules remain in force and are not superseded until the proposed rules are beyond challenge. So how does that work?
Through you, Madam Chair, very trickily is probably the best way to describe it. So we've got an operative plan that when our consents officers are going through the consents, they must go through that. Now that we've got a proposed plan, what that does do is it gives you an indication of where the change in some of those policies are, and it starts to have immediate effect, but the degree to which you weigh up that immediate effect when you are assessing an application, given that the proposed plan doesn't have any deep legal, I guess, standing because it hasn't been through the submission process, is a challenge for our poor consents officers. So it doesn't mean there's a bob each way. No, we have an operative plan. We have a plan that comes in with rules that have immediate effect that need to be had regard to, but it ultimately comes down to the decision of the consent officers in terms of that weighting. There is a large body of case law, as you'd appreciate, that guides consents officers in that regard.
Councillor Marr.
Yeah, Tracy, are we disadvantaging anyone that's applied recently? And are we likely to be legally challenged along those lines? Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, and that is a very, very topical question. We have been discussing this with Rudd. For anyone who has lodged an application, no, the activity status stays the same on the date it was lodged. The only people who may be affected by this are those that are in the position to have been preparing a consent application and will be lodging it, I'll say, within the next few days / weeks. But we've been working, well, actually, I've been sitting on the sidelines watching Rudd work through some of the very detailed questions because a lot of their work is about exact limits and dates.
Madam Chair, if I can just add to that, we do have David Fazakli online who has helped us through this process, and David has just reminded me that online there will also be an information sheet to help people through that process as well, to help understand the key messages.
Thank you.
With that information sheet, once that's online, it would be great to distribute a link to that to counselors, just so when, if we are fielding questions from constituents, we can clearly point them in the right direction. Councillor Hodge.
So with the change of government and the 100 days that they are thinking about repealing some of the RMA corridor, where would these submissions fit, do you think? I know you can't answer it really, but.
Through you, Madam Chair, probably one of the reasons why we were so keen to get the regional coastal plan notified means it has standing and is going through our process. Any change in government, any change in legislation, therefore, does not affect that process. It will continue through the process that it went through once it was notified. Obviously, that may have implications for plan changes that are progressing through the pipes at the moment.
Councillor Mahuta.
Kia ora, Tracy, just in the application of the rules, and the one on discharge particularly, will it require any further enforcement action from us implementing these rules as they stand?
No, we don't believe it will.
So we'll say that you're required to, but do nothing about it.
Through you, Madam Chair, it comes back to the question that Councillor Dunbar-Smith asked in terms of that weighting that is applied to rules that have been operative for some time and rules that essentially are draft rules at the moment. We can seek clarification and make and include that on the information sheet, Councillor Mahuta, or I'm just looking over it. Director Sinclair to see if he'd like to make comment.
Yeah. So essentially the way that the RMA works is that if you trigger a rule in an operative plan or a proposed plan, then it's triggered. I think what you see in the report here is that the activities that are being triggered are similar in both the operative plan and the proposed plan. And so we would be enforcing both the operative and the proposed plan as it comes to the rules. What Tracy's talking about in terms of weighting is around the policy framework. So when you're going through assessing an application against objectives, policies, the weighting that is applied to an operative plan is far greater than the weighting that's applied to a proposed plan. And that weighting changes the further you go through a process. So something that's right at the very beginning, which hasn't been tested, as Tracy mentions, the court applies a lower weighting than to a plan that's very much still proposed, but not yet fully operative, that is a long way through its process. So there is a graduation of weighting where the policies between a operative plan and a proposed plan are different. So it's a bit complicated, but those of you that have been through the Making Good Decisions course will have probably dealt with that challenge as you have the weighting of different policies as you go from an operative plan to a new planning framework. But once you've got a rule which is operative, we monitor and assess compliance against all rules. Hope that helps.
Councillor Marr, did you have an additional?
No, if there are no other questions, I'm happy to move as recorded. Thank you.
So we have a mover in Councillor Marr and a second in Councillor Nicol. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. So this is, now we're on to our last item, seeing as 9.7 was taken off the agenda. So this is Balloons over Waikato follow-up report. This is on page 136 of your agenda. Got Phil King, our Director Regional Transport Connections, joining
It's
us.
self-explanatory, Madam Chair, and happy to move it. Don't want to stop Phil coming to the table, but.
Keep coming just in case. So we've got a mover in Councillor Smith and a seconder in Councillor Dunbar-Smith. Were there any questions, any points of clarification? Councillor Hughes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification, and I guess this is relating to the mitigating, reducing impacts on the climate. Having watched an episode where we had a deputation in Auckland recently, where our facts were being questioned by neighbours to the north, I'd like to just ask the question if we have evidence to support that stated fact in this particular paper that we've been presented with. And if we don't, I know we have to answer questions which have been raised by the Auckland City Council. I'd like to suggest, I've read the report which was prepared by the University of Waikato based on 2021 data, which is now obviously well out of date. I'd like to propose that we should get that report updated if it can be done at reasonable cost, using university resources who would be independent of the regional council. I feel uncomfortable with people representing council going to meetings and they don't have the information available to them. Which are being made, questioning the
Okay.
accuracy of the information.
So I think these are two separate things, though.
Well, they are connected. Sorry.
So I think Councillor Hughes is referring to the fact that it's saying there'll be no impact on climate change, this report,
yes.
where he believes there's been information that might suggest that if people were to use rail instead of vehicles, that maybe it would have an impact, but that information is being disputed. And so to get clarification for this council of what the correct information is, whether there could be an update to the information. I think it might be a university report that was done independently that was disputed, and how it was done. I don't know, Karen, if you've got any opportunity to comment on that. No, it's probably before Phil's here.
Or is there, I do think it is absolutely imperative that councillors have correct information in front of them, and also to enable us as councillors to respond to any queries we get, whether it's another organization, another council, or constituents. So I certainly support ensuring that councillors have access to accurate information with regard to HUYA specifically, but also with regard to all of the matters that we address here at council. Just wanting to address this report, though. I mean, we can note that as an action for staff to come back with additional information. We'll figure out the best method for that to happen, whether it's through Climate Action Committee, whether it's through the Regional Transport Committee, Future Proof Public Transport Committee. We have a variety of choices. So we'll figure out which is the best route to bring that information back to councillors. All right. Was there anything further, Councillor?
I was just going to move the.
We've already got a mover in Councillor Smith and a second in Councillor Dunbar Smith.
All done, thank you.
Did you have something you wanted to add?
I just in total support of what Chris says, and the conclusion at the end isn't correct. That's what so I think we should have correct information put in front of us, not information that I don't think is correct. So
I'm not sure why you're saying the conclusion is incorrect.
Well, because of Chris's question, there was no impact on greenhouse gas emissions. Well, if the train wasn't operating, there's actually no greenhouse gas emissions, so the environment's in
So
a
you're
better
talking about
place.
paragraph 15 of the report? Is
Yep.
that what you're
Yep.
disputing, that
Yep.
conclusion? That's not in that
Okay.
conclusion, Councillor Cookson.
Okay, sorry.
All right. Sorry, did you want to add
Oh,
something?
yeah, I
Councillor
just
Strang?
wanted to maybe provide some clarity around paragraph 9, which I believe is in question.
Right?
Paragraph 9,
Yes,
which is more adaptation rather than mitigation.
exactly.
So mitigation is what Te Huia is doing rather than adaptation.
Yeah,
So there might be some confusion there with some of those
Yes.
terms.
good
Maybe
point.
some more education is needed.
Good point. All right, we have a mover and a seconder for this. All those. Could I put your mic on, Mike?
It's an action point that you've asked staff to take.
Action
So
point.
how do we know that that action point is monitored and reported back?
We have a new methodology for doing that, ensuring that those things are noted through democracy services. So
I have a memory like an elephant, so I will make sure.
I'm sure you do. I know you do. I've seen it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So if I could just add to that, and so it's something that gets into a schedule that the
Yeah.
chair and myself have, so we can capture these actions and ensure that they are actioned.
Yes. Great. All right. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Shall we close with a Karakia?
Thank you, councillors. Unahia, unahia, unahia mai te uru tapanui, kia wātea, kia māmā, tinako, tinana te hinanaro, e te ara takatu, koe rā e rongo, e whakaaria ake ka runga, kia tina, tina, homi ai, hui e, tai ki e.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Councilors, we'll declare the meeting closed at 12:12 p.m.